I am Vaishna Sushil, MTech student of IAS College of Engineering. I am here to discuss on the topic site investigation. Site investigation is the process of collecting information, assessment of data, reporting potential hazards beneath a site which are unknown. All data regarding the site are collected either by surface or subsurface exploration, and these data are being analyzed in detail. On the basis of the data analyzed, further procedure for the project development such as selection of foundation, designing of foundation, etc. are carried out. Site investigation may be considered as the most important part of any project because without it, projects are likely to run into unexpected problems. The objective or the purpose of a site investigation. The purpose of a site investigation is to identify the ground conditions which might affect the proposed development. It enables better understanding of the site and its surroundings, which will enable safe and economic development. It influences upon the selection of type and depth of foundation, evaluation of load bearing capacity, estimation of probable settlement, determination of potential foundation problem, establishment of groundwater table, prediction of lateral earth pressure, establishment of construction methods for changing subsoil condition. Additionally, site investigations are also used to measure the thermal resistivity of the soil or backfill material required for underground transmission line, oil and gas pipeline, radioactive waste disposal, solar thermal storage facilities. A geotechnical investigation will include surface exploration as well as subsurface exploration of the site. Sometimes geophysical methods are also used for collecting data about the site. Exploration. As the term points out, exploration is the action of exploring an unfamiliar area. The purpose of exploration program is to determine within practical limits the stratification and engineering properties of soils underlying the site. The principal properties of interest will be strength, deformation, and hydraulic characteristics. The program should be planned so that the maximum amount of information can be obtained at minimum cost. Surface exploration includes geophysical method or geotechnical professional walking around on the site to observe the physical condition at the site. To obtain information about the soil condition below the surface, some form of subsurface exploration is required. Stages involved in site investigation are as follows. First one, desk study. The desk study is the work taken up prior to commencing the work on site and the ground investigation. The work involves researching the site to gain as much information as possible, both geological and historical. This is essentially the collection of a wide variety of information related to the site. The informations are collected from map, drawings, etc. Geological maps are probably the most important source of information as these give an excellent indication of sort of ground. Aerial photography is another extremely useful source of information. Site reconnaissance. This may be in the form of a field trip to the site which can reveal information on the type and behavior of adjacent structure. It includes preliminary site investigation and a detailed site investigation. Preliminary site investigation. In this phase, a few borings are made to establish the type of soil, groundwater table location, and so on. Detailed site investigation. The purpose of detailed exploration or the site investigation is to determine the engineering properties of the soil in different strata. Third stage involved in site investigation is ground investigation. Ground investigation is taken to be that other than the information available from the walkover survey. It includes trial pits and boreholes. Trial pits are shallow excavation and boreholes are deeper excavation. The type of sample collected from the trial pits or borehole are as follows. It may be disturbed sample and undisturbed sample. Disturbed sample. Samples where the soil in situ properties are not retained. Undisturbed sample. Sample that is not undisturbed but retains some in situ properties. In general, disturbed sample in situ properties are not retained. Undisturbed sample in situ properties are retained. Depth of boring. The approximate required minimum depth of boring should be predetermined. The estimated depth can be changed during the drilling operation depending on the subsoil encountered. To determine the approximate minimum depth of boring, engineers may use the following rule. Determine the net increase of stress delta sigma under the foundation. Estimate the variation of vertical effective stress sigma V dash. Determine the depth D equal to D1 at which the stress increases delta sigma equal to 110 of Q, where Q is the estimated net stress on the foundation. Determine the depth D equal to D2 at which delta sigma by sigma V dash equal to 0.05. Unless bedrock is encountered, the smaller of the two depths, D1 and D2, just determined is the approximate minimum depth of boring required. According to IS 1892-1979, the depth of exploration required depends upon the type of proposed structure, its total weight, size, shape, and disposition of loaded area, soil profile, and physical properties of the soil that constitutes each individual stratum. Here, the depth of exploration depends upon the type of the proposed structure, its total weight, shape, size, disposition of loaded area, soil profile, and the physical properties of the soil that constitutes each individual stratum. Coming to next point, it should be 1.5 times the width of footing below the foundation level. Here, the depth should be considered as 1.5 times the width of foundation. If the number of loaded area are in close proximity, the effect of each is additive. In such cases, the whole area may be considered as loaded and exploration should be carried out 1/2 times the lower dimension. In any case, the depth to which seasons variation affect the soil should be regarded as minimum depth for the exploration of the site. Minimum depth for the exploration of the site are considered in the case where the soil are being affected by seasonal variation. Spacing of boring. There are no hard and fast rules for spacing of boreholes. These spacing can be increased or decreased depending on the subsoil condition. According to IS 1892-1979, for a compact building site covering an area of about 0.4 hectares, one borehole or the trial pit in each corner and one in center should be adequate. For a site of an area about zero point 0.4 hectares, the boreholes are excavated at each corner of the site and also one in center. For very large area covering industrial and residential colonies, the geological nature of the terrain will help in deciding the number of boreholes or the trial pit. Here, the nature of the terrain will help in deciding the number of boreholes to be excavated in a large area. Cone penetration test may be performed at every 50 meter by dividing the area in a grid pattern, and number of boreholes or the trial pits are decided by examining the variation in penetration curve. That is, the whole area is divided into a grid and cone penetration test is performed at every 50 meter, and the borehole to be excavated are decided based on the examination of variation in penetration curve. At last, the cone penetration test may not be possible at sites having boulders. In such cases, geophysical methods may be used. Geophysical methods are suitable for sites having boulders. Standard penetration test. The standard penetration test is a common in situ testing method used to determine the geotechnical engineering properties of subsurface soil. It is simple and inexpensive test to estimate the relative density of the soil and approximate shear strength parameter. The relative density and approximate shear strength are determined with the help of standard penetration test. The procedure is as follows. Drilling the borehole and driving the caisson. Drill the borehole to a desired sampling depth. Clean out all disturbed material. The equipment used shall provide a clean borehole of 100 to 150 mm in diameter. Penetration test is performed on undisturbed soil. Casing shall be used when drilling in sand, soft clay, etc. The casing shall preferably be advanced by slowly turning rather than driving. Assembling the equipment. Attach the split spoon sampler to the drill rod and lower it into the hole sitting on the undisturbed material. Attach the dry weight assembly. Lift the weight of 63.5 kg hammer approximately to a height of 0.76 meter. Allow it to fall on the anvil, delivering one seating blow. Mark the drill rod in 3 successive 0.15 meter increments to observe the penetration. Penetration testing. Rise and drop the hammer 0.76 meter successively by means of the rope. Hammer should be operated between 40 to 60 blows per minute and should drop freely. Record the number of blows for each 0.15 meter of penetration. The first 0.15 meter increment is the seating drive. The sum of blows for second and third increment of 0.15 meter penetration is termed as penetration resistance or the N value. If the number of blows for 15 cm drive exceeds 50, it is taken as a refusal and the test is discontinued. Test shall be made at every change in stratum. Now, the procedure of standard penetration test shall be repeated once more. The procedure mainly includes drilling the borehole, driving the caisson, assembling the equipment, penetration testing, and finally sample handling. The procedure is as follows. Drill the borehole to a desired sampling depth. Casing shall be used when drilling in sand, soft clay, etc. Casing shall be preferably be advanced by slowly turning rather than driving. Erect the tripod over the test hole and assemble the unit. Attach the split spoon sampler to the drill rod and lower it into the hole. Drive it with blows from the hammer of weight 63.5 kg falling freely from a height of 0.76 meter. Hammer should be operated between 40 to 60 blows per minute. Record the number of blows for each 0.15 meter of penetration. The first 0.15 meter increment is termed as seating drive. The sum of the blows for second and third increment of 0.15 meter penetration is termed as penetration resistance or the N value. And now coming to sample handling. Bring the sampler to the surface and open it. Remove any obvious contaminations from the ends or sides and also drain out the excess water. Carefully scrape along one side to expose fresh material. Record the length, composition, color, stratification and also the condition of the sample. Remove the sample and wrap it or seal it in a plastic bag to retain moisture. The correction followed are of two types: correction for overburden pressure and correction for dilatancy. Coming to dilatancy correction, Terzaghi and Peake in 1967 recommended the following correction: NC equal to 15 plus 1 by 2 into NR minus 15, where NC is the corrected penetration number and NR the recorded value. Coming to overburden pressure correction, Gibbs and Halls in 1957 recommended the following correction, that is NC equal to NR into 350 divided by sigma naught dash plus 70, where NC stands for corrected N value and NR stands for observed N value. Here sigma naught dash is the effective overburden pressure in terms of kilonewton per meter square. Peake and Hesson recommended another equation, N equal to 0.77 NR log 1905 divided by sigma naught dash. According to them, sigma naught dash greater than or equal to 24 kilonewton per meter square. Now we shall see boring tools. The common type of boring tools discussed here are auger boring and wash boring. Here the figure represents auger boring instrument and a wash boring instrument. Auger boring. It is the simplest method of exploration and sampling. It may be either power driven or hand operated. Maximum depth of penetration is 10 meter. It is suitable in all soils above groundwater table but only in cohesive soil below groundwater table. Hollow stem augers are used for sampling or conducting standard penetration test. Wash boring. A case is driven with a drop hammer into the hole. A hollow drill rod with chopping bit is inserted inside the casing. Soil is loosened and removed from the borehole using water or a drilling mud jetted under pressure. The water is jetted into the hole through the bottom of a wash pipe and leaves the hole along with the loose soil from the annual space between the hole and the wash pipe. The water reaches the ground level where the soil in suspension is allowed to settle and the mud is recirculated. Preparation of boring log. The boring log includes name and address of drilling company, driller's name, job description and number, type and location of boring, date of boring, subsurface stratifications, elevation of water table, standard penetration test details, number, type, and depth of soil sample collected, and in the case of rock coring, type of core barrel, actual length of coring, length of core recovery are also noted. Here, figure shows the borehole data. In this figure, it represents borehole data. It mainly includes borehole number, water table level, type of soil at which each strata, thickness of strata, characteristics of soil at each strata, sample type collected, depth at which it is collected, and also the n value which is obtained by standard penetration test, and so on. Now we shall go through an example of dam site investigation. The primary purpose of geological site investigations for a dam project is provide the information that dam designers require in order to design a safe dam structure and to be able to estimate with reasonable accuracy how much the dam is going to cost. The following investigation should be done at a dam site. First one, regional geological mapping. Second, dam access survey. Third, landslide possibility survey. And finally, environmental impact survey. Here, investigation of dam site is shown as figure. Hope you have got some details regarding site investigation and the topics related to site investigation. Thank you.